It is 9:41 on the East Coast. We are still looking ahead to some important poll closings at 10 o'clock. At the top of this hour, we'll have poll closings in Iowa and in Nevada, both important swing states, as well as in Utah and Montana. Montana has a very interesting Senate race ahead. But in terms of what we're still watching, the key races that are still too close to call right now, sort of a stunning list. Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, Virginia, New Hampshire, Colorado, all described as too close to call by NBC News at this point. Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania have all gone to President Obama. Missouri is described as too early to call at this point. In Arizona, too early to call with Romney in the lead. Minnesota, too early to call with Obama in the lead. I do have a call for you right now on a Senate race. Probably the most closely watched Senate race in the country in Massachusetts. NBC News projects that Elizabeth Warren
together the best grassroots networks that I've ever seen. And we did it, folks, with fewer resources than the Democrats had at first, and certainly with less time because we had to go through a primary process first. So I'm really proud of the effort. I'm proud of our volunteers. I'm proud of the way we've worked with Boston. And everybody tonight ought to be extremely proud of the work that you have done. I'm happy to tell you that in Ohio, we're seeing some good results. We have good turnout in southwest Ohio. In some of the swing areas, we've got some early voting results in now. In places like Lake County that some of you follow, or Hamilton County, we're seeing better than expected early voting results for us, and frankly, worse than expected for the Democrats. We've also seen some good results in coal country tonight. We just heard from Belmont County. So we are doing what we expected to do in energy counties in Ohio, and that encourages me a lot. You remember during the campaign that Mitt talked a lot about this Friday night.
Okay, that's Senator Rob Portman calling in via Skype and phone there, talking to the Boston headquarters for the Romney campaign, giving an update. We're waiting for that, what the numbers are looking like in Ohio. He still sounds encouraged for Republicans, saying they should be encouraged, but we will wait and see. That's the big.
If that's unusual. I've never seen that happen before.
To get the call in?
The Skype from one of the state campaign chairs, giving folks an update on the counties. It's quite helpful, actually, telling us how they feel the result is coming in county versus county, and our decision desk is crunching its own numbers on that same score.
We were glad to bring it to you. We have an election alert right now. Fox News can project in the Senate race in Wisconsin, the Democrat Tammy Baldwin will win, defeating Republican Tommy Thompson, the four-term governor, former Health and Human Services Secretary for President George W. Bush. Bush will lose this race. Tammy Baldwin, the Democrat, this was a tight race, but she going in had a lead in the polls. Baldwin is a seven-term member of the House based out of the liberal stronghold of Madison, Wisconsin, and she and President Obama will win in the state of Wisconsin, home to VP nominee Paul Ryan.
I want to tell you that we brought this news to you earlier, that the Republicans will now retain control of the House, and we are just getting word that Speaker Boehner, who will remain Speaker Boehner, is going to make remarks momentarily, just getting a bit of flavor for what he's going to say, saying, with this vote, the American people have made clear there is no mandate for raising tax rates, and goes on from there. I want to go over to Martha McCallum, who has a look at how the balance of power is shaping up right now. Martha?
Yeah, hi there, Megan. As you just said, House Republicans, really as expected, have held on to their majority. It would have required 25 wins for Democrats to flip power in the House, so it's not a big surprise here that that has not happened. But really what's developing in the Senate is a very big night for the Democrats, because there were about 9 toss-up races that we've been watching very closely. We now know about 5 of those toss-up races, okay? You just mentioned the Indiana race, which was lost by Murdoch. We now also have the race that you just showed us with Tammy Baldwin, where Tommy Thompson, who was catching a little bit of fire toward the end of that race, some money started to flow in his direction for that race. That one was not to be won either. Let's take a look at some of these. Florida. Bill Nelson, the Democrat there, he's the incumbent. He holds his seat. He was running against Representative Connie Mack, so that is a no-change issue in Florida. And then you've got the wrestling match that we watched in Connecticut. Linda McMahon ran for a second time in the Senate seat there. This time it was for independent Joe Lieberman's seat. He's retiring. Last time she lost to the Attorney General Richard Blumenthal in Connecticut, but this time it was Chris Murphy who beat McMahon. She has spent a combined $100 million running for the Senate. a crushing blow for Linda McMahon tonight, and that was a seat that was independent. Now it is a Democrat seat in name as well in Connecticut. Ohio as well. A lot will be said tonight about whether or not, coattails are in effect. But in the Ohio race, the Democrat Sherrod Brown keeps his seat. He defeated Josh Mandel, who also looked like he was catching a little bit of attention toward the end of this race. It got a lot of GOP money that sort of migrated from some of the other races. The Murdoch race, the Aiken race started to flow over to this race. But the incumbent will stay in power there as well, Sherrod Brown. So no change in the Ohio Senate seat in that case as well. So we'll keep a little watch on all of these throughout the night. A few more Senate races to be decided that are toss-ups. And the House, as we said, remains in Republican hands, Megan.
All right, Martha, thank you.
And as we head to break, we want to update you. Obviously, we're waiting on these big states. One of them is Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia and Florida. There you look at the vote total in Florida. You heard Karl Rove and Joe Trippi talking about it. Look at how close that is right there. They should have put up the difference there so we didn't have to do the math on this one. No, we won't do that.
It's close. Close
is
good enough.
It's very close. And there is Speaker John Boehner. Let's listen in for a little bit.
To help bring our team to victory. And, of course, I want to thank Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, who've carried the banner of our party with grace, vision, strength, and dignity. And most of all, I think we want to thank the American people. You know, for 2 years, our House majority has been the primary line of defense for the American people against a government that spends too much, taxes too much, certainly borrows too much when it's left unchecked. And in the face of a staggering national debt that threatens our children's future, our majority passed a budget that begins to solve the problem. Now, while others chose inaction in the face of this threat, we offered solutions. And the American people want solutions. And tonight, they've responded by renewing our House Republican majority. You know, with this vote, the American people have also made clear that there's no mandate for raising tax rates. And what Americans want that are solutions that will ease the burdens on small businesses, bring jobs home, and let our economy grow. Listen, we stand ready to work with any willing partner, Democrat, Republican, or otherwise, who shares a commitment to getting those things done. Listen, we're humbled by having again been entrusted by the American people with the responsibility of leading the people's house. We'll never take it for granted, and we will never let you down. God bless you, and God bless our country.
Speaker John Boehner talking about retaining control of the U.S. House of Representatives, and it looks like the Republicans may pick up seats in that. And at one point, Democrats were talking about taking control of the House, winning 25 seats this year. That obviously not happening. On the Senate side, it looks like Democrats will hold on to control of the Senate. We're waiting on a couple of more races here, but it looks like we're going to have a divided Congress up on Capitol Hill again.
One way or the other. The only question now is who will be in the White House. We're going to check in with our panel right after this break. Don't go away. Right here, live on America's Election Headquarters.
America's Election Headquarters is brought to you by Infinity, luxury cars that deliver inspired performance. Go to foxnews.com for more.
Did you bring it, Grandpa?
I've got it, sweetie. 40-year-old tradition to keep. I hope we make it.
We'll make it. Winter is the season to bring family together. Visit the Infinity Limited Engagement Winter event for the best offers of the season, including an Infinity JX for $499 a month. Infinity, inspired performance.
Warning, what you are about to watch is unlawful.
Moonshine is making a comeback now.
Sweet, that's what I'm talking about.
I tend to be the guy that's always at the wrong place at the right time, or the right place at the wrong time.
Let's celebrate.
No one knows anything about it. It's a whole lot of money right here.
Moonshiners season premiere, Wednesday at 10, only on Discovery.
Ain't nothing illegal till you get caught.
If you are age 85 or younger, call 1-877-856-5507 now to learn more about the Senior Care Plan from Senior Life Insurance Company. The average funeral now costs over $7,500, but the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255, leaving your loved ones to pay your debt. The Senior Care Plan will pay up to $30,000 for funeral and any other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you'll have lifetime coverage. Your rates will never increase, your benefits will never decrease, and your plan cannot be canceled by Senior Life. To receive free information about the Senior Care Plan and its benefits, call 1-877-856-5507. Also receive information about a free prescription discount card by calling now. You have no obligation. Operators are standing by. Call now.
Right now, save big on beautiful flooring from Luna. Add style to your home and experience Luna's convenient service. The more you floor, the more you save. Buy one room of flooring, get all other rooms of product for only $50 each. Now you can afford to floor the whole house. Buy one room of flooring, get each additional room of product for just $50. At Luna, we work for you.
877-241 Luna.
Fox News election alert in Massachusetts. Fox News can now project that Democratic challenger Elizabeth Warren will unseat Republican Senator Scott Brown, the incumbent. That is a Democratic pickup in the Senate. If Democratic Senate incumbents on the West Coast hold their seats tonight, as they are expected to do, then this means the U.S. Senate will remain in Democratic hands. This, of course, was the seat once held by Ted Kennedy, Democrat Ted Kennedy. Scott Brown took it over in the midst of the health care debate. And although he has been a moderate in the Senate, not often towing the party line, he was defeated by Elizabeth Warren tonight, and that is not totally unexpected. She was leading in the latest polls, although it was a hard-fought contest because there were some issues about her academic history and her representations about her Native American status and so on. But in any event, Elizabeth Warren will go to the U.S. Senate from the state of Massachusetts as their next senator.
We're getting another election alert right now. Fox News can project that President Obama will win the state of New Hampshire and its 4 electoral votes. Governor Romney was contesting in New Hampshire. In fact, that was his last stop on his campaign trail. He gave a speech in New Hampshire, started his campaign in New Hampshire, and ended it there. Of course, New Hampshire holds the first in the nation primary, but President Obama will win, according to our Fox News decision desk, the live free or die state. And there were a lot of efforts to really win this state. You can see the percentage there in. Just to explain again, a lot of people have been tweeting. This is the percentage of the vote in so far, 18%. And that's the raw total you see on the screen. But our decision desk can look at the counties and the precincts that are still out, and they can look at the exit polls that they had from today, and then they can see the stipulation that they are going to call these states for the different candidates. They have a 97% certainty by the time they get to that projection. So with that, New Hampshire now adds the 4 electoral votes, and there you see the electoral math. President Obama with 157, Governor Romney with 153, and 270 is the magic number needed.
Let's pick up with that Massachusetts Senate race. We'll go back to New Hampshire in a minute, but I want to pick up on that Massachusetts Senate race with you, Tucker, and your thoughts on Elizabeth Warren now taking over the seat held by Scott Brown.
Well, I mean, if Scott Brown can't win in Massachusetts, no Republican can. I mean, Scott Brown is an appealing campaigner. He's about as liberal as you can be and still remain a Republican United States Senator, running against someone who was caught lying about her ethnic heritage, who'd never been elected to anything before, and who was pretty much on the far left spectrum, even for the Democratic Party, and he lost. So it tells you that party ID matters, I would say. One other thing. The one victory tonight, so far, is the Republican victory in the House. The Republicans will maintain control of the House of Representatives. I am pretty sure, talking to Democrats, and I have been all week on this subject, this means the end of Nancy Pelosi's career in leadership. There is some opposition to her. She's been a very effective speaker, but I think it's over for her. I think she will not be in leadership in this next Congress.
Liz, final word. I mean, Republicans out there are looking at this night and saying, what should they take away from it?
Florida, Virginia, Ohio, still out, very, very close. I think that we need to make sure that we're staying here, watch, and remind people how close they are. Also, I'd say, you know, you're taking somebody like Elizabeth Warren, who pretended to be a Cherokee Indian. I would stack her up any day against some of our young rising stars in the party, people like Marco Rubio, Kelly Ayotte, Paul Ryan. So, you know, I'd say stay tuned.
And Democrats, what do they look at tonight?
Look, this United States Senate thing is phenomenal. I mean, there was no reason why the Republicans didn't pick up seats in the United States Senate. They should have taken it over. The Democrats were very exposed. That's what happens when you nominate two far-right candidates.
All right, panel, thank you very much.
We got minutes to go until 10 p.m. in the next batch of state closings. Complete analysis from our Fox News political team and former vice presidential nominee Sarah Palin coming up.
Fox News, America's election headquarters, is brought to you by Mass Mutual, a company owned by its policyholders. We'll help you get there.
How did I get here? Dumb luck? Or good decisions? Ones I've made, ones we've all made. About marriage, children, money, about tomorrow. Here's to good decisions.
Who matters most to you says the most about you. Mass Mutual is owned by our policyholders, so they matter most to us. Mass Mutual. We'll help you get there.
Okay, time for bed, kiddo. Lights out.
Wherever our trains go, the economy comes to life. Norfolk Southern, one line, infinite possibilities.
Welcome back, folks, to America's election headquarters. It is just about 10 o'clock here on the East Coast, and we are going to have our next batch of race calls momentarily in just about 40 seconds.
Polls about to close in 4 more states, including the swing state of Nevada. We are waiting still for more results out of Virginia. Some interesting results coming out of there so far. Extremely tight. Ohio and Florida. Believe it or not, Florida is neck and neck at this hour. Still cannot call Florida.
Just to catch you up, we originally could not call Pennsylvania or New Hampshire, but we have now projected Barack Obama will win both of those states, and we will wait to see on the 3 critical states that could make or break this election in terms of Florida, Ohio, and Virginia. But first, this.
It is 10 p.m. on the East Coast, and polls have now closed in another 4 states, including 2 of the tightest toss-ups in the nation, Iowa and Nevada. In Iowa, the state where Barack Obama began and ended his re-election campaign, the president has a slight lead over Mitt Romney. It is too soon to project which candidate will win the Hawkeye state, worth 6 electoral votes.
The president has a similar lead in the state of Nevada, which is also worth 6 electoral votes. The Fox News decision desk will wait for more vote tallies before it can actually project a winner in Nevada.
But Fox can project that Mitt Romney, a Mormon, will win the state of Utah, which is home to more Mormons than any other state. And Romney will also win another western state, Montana, according to Fox Exit polls.
I want to check back in with Bill Hemmer, who's tracking the results tonight. in real time at the Billboard. Bill, take us through the what-if scenarios that we are looking at right now.
Yeah, good evening again, Meg and Brett. This is what we have, and I want our viewers to be clear and understanding on what I've done here with the map. Red is Republican, blue is Democrat. When we started the night, we had what we considered 11 battleground states. Those are states that, based on polling, are just frankly too close to call. As we move into the 10 o'clock Eastern Time hour of the night, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 battleground states marked in gray. Now, what I have done is taken the states that we expected to go Democrat, already made them blue, and given them to Barack Obama in the Electoral College count, and the states we expected to go for Mitt Romney to give it to the governor. To give you an idea of where we are at the night. Remember, 270 votes. That's the magic number right now. Based on the map behind me now, I've got the president at 246 and Mitt Romney at 187. So how does Governor Romney now get to 270 at this point in the night? Come on over here. Okay, Florida is still outstanding, about 18,000 vote difference. Say he comes back there and overtakes that lead for Barack Obama. That would give him 29 electoral votes, and now you're at 216. And now you start to see the map in motion, how important the mid-Atlantic states are now. 15 electoral votes in North Carolina. If he is able to win there, a state that Barack Obama took from Republicans 4 years ago, he'd be at 231. Now in Virginia, 13 electoral votes. If he were to win there, now you're at 244. Ohio has yet to be called. What if he comes back and wins in the Buckeye State? At 18, now you're at 262, and you're only 8 away from 270. Even with all this, if you go 4 for 4 on these states, you would still need to win maybe a Colorado to put you over at 271. Again, this is a what-if scenario that we're trying to develop throughout the night. If I take these away right now, just say I take away Colorado and Ohio from Governor Romney, and we punch up the president right here at 246. What if he were to come in here and take Ohio's 18 electoral votes? He's only at 264. Still 6 shy of the magic number. Then he would only need Iowa, that would do it, or it could be Nevada, that would do it as well. The point is, in this scenario, at this point in the race, it is much easier for Barack Obama to get to the White House than it is for Mitt Romney. But again, we're waiting on Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, Colorado, and just a couple more. We'll find out shortly. Back to you.
Bill, thanks.
I think that's helpful to give perspective of where we are in the night, and also with some more perspective. Our panel, we bring them back. Britt, Juan, Kirsten, and Steve. Okay, Steve, Wisconsin going to President Obama. You're a Wisconsinite. What do you think?
I am indeed. Well, it was always going to be a tough state, especially recently. I mean, I think there's going to be a big discussion. There'll probably be a lot of second guessing among
for strategies that can help.
When you take a closer look at the best schools in the world, you see they all have something very interesting in common. They have teachers with a deeper knowledge of their subjects. As a result, their students achieve at a higher level. Let's develop more stars in education. Let's invest in our teachers so they can inspire our students. Let's solve this.
Oh, there you go. I'm gonna stand up to her.
No, you're not.
I know.
You know, Ronnie, folks who save hundreds of dollars switching to Geico sure are happy. How happy are they, Jimmy?
Happier than a witch in a broom factory.
Get happy. Get Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Welcome back to America's election headquarters. We are watching some battleground states, and they are too close to call. Right now, at this hour, President Barack Obama has a slight lead in Florida, and there you see it. It is very tight there. 87% of the expected vote in, and the margin is very slim. Cannot call that one. In Ohio, you just heard Karl Rove talking about the different areas of Ohio. There you see it. 60% of the expected vote in Ohio, a lot of it focusing on Cincinnati. So it appears Ohio, possibly the nation's fate, will come down to a city once run by Jerry Springer.
And from which our own Bill Hemmer hails. Just want to note that for the record. We'll get to Bill in a minute. Also want to take you to Virginia. We are still waiting on the results there. We are not yet able to project the winner in the state of Virginia. You can see with 69% of the expected vote counted, Mitt Romney now has 51% and Barack Obama 48%. Want to take you also to North Carolina, another critical state, and with 94% of the expected vote counted, Mitt Romney does have a lead there as well. You can see by 2 points over Barack Obama.
And as we look outside Times Square here in New York City, this is a cool shot, isn't it?
Very.
That's the electoral vote up there, and it's still tied at this hour as our map continues to fill in. 163 to 163, and the magic number, I'll say it together, 270 to win the White House.
Kind of left you hanging there.
I know. Where was the help?
Sorry. Next time.
Crickets chirping.
I got your back. I got your back next time.
Let's bring in Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan. Hi, Peggy. Your thoughts on this evening?
Well, it's quite a night. I mean, I think I am hearing the pessimism of people, certain of the guests. I quite understand it. But a lot remains to be seen about this night. It's a funny sort of thing. It looks like it will go on for a while. I'm not at all sure we're going to know what's going on in Ohio for a while, but there is a subdued feeling to this if you are a conservative or a Republican this evening. Second thought is, I'm thinking, my goodness, we just spent $2 billion. We're preoccupied profoundly for 18 months. There was no other story in America but the political story. And we may wind up with a certain stasis with roughly the same Congress and roughly the same president. So that's quite something.
It is. Are you surprised at the strength, Peggy, of President Obama, especially in some of these swing states like Virginia, in North Carolina, which we haven't called yet, in Florida?
North Carolina is the one that really caught my eye. Florida also. Yes, I am surprised. It's going to take some real thinking. Well, I'll just tell you, for me, it's going to take some real thinking about what happened here, if indeed what appears to be happening turns out to be so.
Peggy, what do you make of the social issues and the appeal to women that we saw from the Democratic Party in this campaign? The president leading by a healthy margin among women, as he was forecast to do, but there was a question about whether the Democrats had the right message in this war on women and promoting reproductive rights and birth control and so on and so forth. Your thoughts on how that seems to be panning out?
To me, it seemed the wrong way for the Democrats to be going. It seemed deeply disingenuous and also off-point and rustling up passions about things that people didn't have to be worried about. It may have been effective. I think we'll know more when we dive a little bit deeper into the longer exit polling data. What does strike me, however, Megan, right from the top, is that this very toughly negative Obama campaign assumption that the way they could win is to drive a stake through the heart of Mitt Romney, really ruin the sense the American people have of him as a professional being, paint him as Bain Capital and rapacious capitalist and all this stuff. We've all talked about that a number of times in the past few months, but I have a feeling it was even more powerful than some of us who thought it was powerful.
Peggy, former speechwriter, you saw the closing arguments, and you saw both candidates making their pitch in the final days. What were your thoughts about that?
I thought Romney's closing argument was pretty good. It came together for him, I thought, at the end in a way that it hadn't. He also caught his own stride as a candidate and as a man campaigning before people who were genuinely excited for the first time to see him come and speak. I remember in one of the last rallies, I was watching it on TV, and I heard the crowd break out at one point in the words, "Mitt, Mitt, Mitt." Well, my goodness, I hadn't heard that in the past year. So I thought that was pretty significant. While I thought the president was more downbeat and more grim, But I must tell you, Brett, I suspect at the end of the day, as we look back on all of this history, we won't think the closing arguments had much to do with it. This cake may have been baked a little while ago.
All right. Peggy Noonan, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
Joining us now, Robert Gibbs, Senior Advisor for Obama for America. Robert, your thoughts on where we are tonight?
Well, look, I think where we are tonight is, where I'm looking at it is we're in pretty good shape. All our paths to 270 are still very much intact. Romney campaign is surprised that of the 9 battleground states, they haven't added one of those to their column tonight. So look, I feel very good about where we are.
I want to ask you about the way it's shaking out right now in Congress, because the Republicans are going to retain control of the House. It appears that the Democrats are going to retain control of the Senate. And so if Barack Obama gets reelected tonight, he's going to go back to a Congress that looks an awful lot like the one that, you know, there's been such contention with over the past 4 years.
Right.
So how would things change?
Well, Megan, they'll change because we have issues that we, our gridlock, haven't dealt with in order and getting us on a sane fiscal path we know is looming over us. And unless we sit down, Democrat and Republican, and actually talk and have some compromise and some give among Republicans who have been, quite frankly, to meet the president halfway, if we can start to do some of that, we can see that we'll make some real progress, a balanced way of getting our fiscal house in order and controlling our debts and our deficits.
I want to apologize to our viewers because we're getting a few hits in the satellite feed, but we want to hear from you, Robert, so bear with us if you can. Can I just ask you, what if the Republicans don't compromise? What if they come back and they say, we feel we have a mandate not to compromise. We didn't really compromise that much over the past couple of years, and we feel like our voters told us, continue that. What does Barack Obama do then?
Well, I think if you look at the approval rating of Republicans in Congress nationally, I think it's lower than the national drinking age. When your approval rating is lower than the national drinking age, you're not doing well. And I think if Republicans take from approval rating that's that low, that what they're doing is the right way to lead the country, then I think they haven't probably spent enough time looking overall out of what this campaign is, and quite frankly, in talking to people where they live. They don't live on the extremes in this. They live somewhere in the middle, and they want to get something done in a positive way for this country.
Robert, hey, it's Brett Baer. Last question. You
Hey,
say you want things to get done. You're saying that for a long time, Democrats up on the Hill were saying if the president won, it was about breaking the backs of the Republican Party to kind of break them to follow his agenda. No. And that's not what you're saying.
No. Look, no one is going to get everything they want in competition. Each side's going to do it. But what you have to have in order to have people get along is they have to be willing to sit at the table and listen. I think after tonight, I think the president's going to get reelected. I think we're going to flip some Senate seats, and I think we're going to be in a stronger position to convince Republicans that it's time to sit down and begin talking about these issues, not just issuing press releases and saying that they're not interested in getting something done on behalf of the American people.
Robert Gibbs, thanks for your time. We could still have a long night ahead, though. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
You know, at first, those hits were making it anticipatory, like, what's he going to say? And then it just got annoying.
It did.
Fox News alert.
Because of the technology,
yeah,
not because of Robert.
No, not because of Robert, because of the satellite hit. Well, we want to bring this to you. Fox News Decision Desk has now classified Colorado as too close to call. We are watching the Denver suburbs very closely to see whether President Obama will be able to match his strong showing there back in 2008. This, given the way the electoral map has unfolded so far tonight, is even more important than it was at the beginning of the night, the state of Colorado. But at this hour, it's too close to call. Fox News hopes to project a winner as soon as possible. They don't usually put that language out there, Brett, the decision desk, so that That sounds hopeful to me that they actually think they might get there.
They could, and we can project a winner in Arizona. Mitt Romney will win the state of Arizona handily, even though, again, just explaining, 49% of the expected vote in, but Fox News Decision Desk is calling the state of Arizona. You know, Arizona at the beginning of this election battle was actually considered by Democrats as a possible swing state for them. They thought they were going to put it on their map, but it quickly fell away. Arizona dealing with a lot of housing issues, heavy Republican state, but we're calling that for Mitt Romney.
Yeah. Coming up, we are going to check in with the campaigns, Carl Cameron and Ed Henry, and we are going to go to break, taking a look live in Boston at Romney campaign headquarters, I think. Where are they? There they are.
At Scottrade, you won't just find us online. You'll also find us in person, with dedicated support teams at over 500 branches nationwide. So when you call or visit, you can ask for a name you know. Because personal service starts with a real person.
At Scottrade, $7 trades are just the start. Our support teams are nearby, ready to help. It's no wonder so many investors are saying,
I'm with Scottrade.
Bam! Hey, babe, why do you figure Ernie's has been around so long? We're talking 60-some years. Well, it ain't rocket surgery. It's good old-fashioned home cooking. Comfort foods like turkey dinner, Yankee pot roast, beautiful broiled scrod, and some of the best pizza in the entire solar system. Bam! Today, people want value, not make-believe food on a foo-foo plate. Home cooking and a happy belly. That's what Ernie's is still all about.
Sure, we get bathroom stuff. It's right next to the shovels and the fertilizer.
You call this customer service? Republic is a local company, family-owned, specializing in bathrooms, faucets, sinks, toilets, tubs, the latest designs, and traditional New England favorites, too. Brands you trust.
That one done. But if you come down to Broward County, the president is outperforming his 2008 totals in Broward County by a percentage, 84%. The president's going to add more to his votes here. Miami-Dade is at 70%. The president's a bit under his 2008 performance here. But again, logic tells you the president's going to add to his total here. So when you pull out to the state and you look statewide and you're in the Romney war room, you're doing what I'm doing. And you're calling into these counties and you're saying, wait, do we have any votes here? 93%, sure. They might get some votes here, but it's pretty close. So there's a little bit of math for Governor Romney here. Then you keep tapping around. 100%, 100%, 100%. 100%, you get the point. Yeah. You come out to the full statewide and you look at places where there are still votes to be counted, okay? So the Democrat votes in up here, 100%, 100%, 100%. But when you come down here, where the people live, still some votes to be counted. Still some votes to be counted, just a few here, but the president's winning. In places where you find significant population centers with votes still out, you find the president running up big numbers.
Well, he should have a cushion there.
When you look at this map right now, we have to count the votes, but I'm having a very hard time finding places where I can show
a nice slight advantage. Let's go to Ohio right now, because that's obviously a key battleground state as well.
And at the moment, it's still blue. When you look at this map, Romney needs that, he needs that, he needs more than those two, but he can't win without those two, and it's blue at the moment, too. Again, incredibly close. Wow.
50% to 48%, 64% of the vote in Ohio has been counted, and he's up by about 90,000 votes right now.
He's up by about 90,000 votes. So here's your largest county in the state right here, Cuyahoga County, Cleveland area. Again, this is bad news for the Romney campaign. If only 30% of the vote is in up here and it's 70-30, you know when the rest of the vote comes in, this is the president's breadbasket right here. And one of the things you have to say is not having a primary challenge. Not having a primary challenge. One of the things I did early in the campaign is travel around to some of these areas, and the Obama campaign was going into the African-American community and saying, he's had your back, now you're going to have to have his in November. No primary challenge. They got names, they got phone numbers, and they have proven so far they're turning out the vote in places where you thought in an off year, a tough economy, a re-election year, maybe they wouldn't vote. Cuyahoga County, 7%. You have to tip your hat to the Obama turnout operation here. You come down into Akron, 66%. Let's just take a peek. 58% in 2008. 66% now. Across the northern industrial part here, the turnout operation seems to be working. And two more words, auto bailout.
I want to stay in Ohio right now. Aaron Brunette is watching what's going on. She's got a front row seat in Columbus, the state capital. Aaron?
That's right, and we've been getting updates from the Secretary of State here, John Husted. You're talking there about the North, where the president needs to really pick up votes and increase his margin. I want to go to the South, though, an area where Mitt Romney was hoping to pick up. Let's get to Don Lemon, who's at the Board of Elections there in Cincinnati. Don?
63-35 now in Hamilton County, a county, Aaron, that usually goes Republican, except in 2008, a correction. I have 53 to 46. This county usually goes Republican except for 2008, and this can sort of be a bellwether for what's to come. If you look over here, all these results are coming in now, and everyone is watching from really around the world, from the BBC, all over. People are coming in here, and those results are going up on the screen. And then back around here to the left, you can see this is really the war room. This is where everything's coming in. They're crunching those numbers in here. They're going onto those cards. They've got about 25 trucks that have to come in and out. They said so far about 5 of those trucks have come in. But here's the interesting thing, what I'm being told here. They're saying many people underestimated the Obama ground game here, and they're believing that's where Obama is winning. In the bigger counties, in Montgomery County, in Franklin County, in Cuyahoga County, up where Martin Savage is. They believe that he built up such a bulwark for the smaller Republican rural counties that it's going to be hard to fight against that. Of course, there's still a lot of numbers to come in, but they believe just because of the sheer size of those counties, it's going to be tough to fight against that. So right now, the president leading, but still all of the numbers are not in, Aaron.
All right, well, Don, thank you very much. And Wolf, you know, this is something we've heard a lot about. You know, the Obama campaign has said, we have a better ground game. We have a better ground game. It's going to serve us well in Ohio. Obviously, the jury is still out, but at least from the numbers we have so far, it seems to be the case. They've got the better ground game. Back to you.
They certainly do seem to have the better ground game. And the Hamilton County is really important, where Cincinnati is, only 21% of the vote officially in so far. The president has a 55-44% lead.
This is the home of Rob Portman, who was his debate practitioner. A lot of people in Ohio thought he should have been the vice presidential nominee. If you look at Hamilton County right now, 55% to 44%. Let's go back in time to 2008, 53% to 46%. So if that holds, the president will essentially match his totals from 4 years ago. Now, why is that significant? Because to win Ohio in a statewide election, here's the last time George W. Bush won it, Hamilton County was red. So again, President Obama matching his performance so far, Wolf, in the counties where he needs to.
Stand by. I want everyone to stand by, because we have 2 projections to make right now. First projection, Minnesota, 10 electoral votes. The President of the United States will carry the state of Minnesota. We project Minnesota goes for President Obama. In Arizona, winner will be Mitt Romney, 11 electoral votes. In Arizona, we project Arizona going for Mitt Romney. So where does that stand? Leave us right now in the race to 270 electoral votes needed to be elected President of the United States. Right now, Mitt Romney has 169. Barack Obama has 157. You see a lot of yellow states that are still out there. Those yellow states are states where we have not been able to make projections. We're getting ready for more projections, though, at the top of the hour. Anderson?
Yeah, we're watching a slew of battleground states that may be too close to call right now. Also, polls close soon on the West Coast. The biggest electoral prize of the night, California, is on the line. A lot of drama right now for both presidential campaigns. We'll take you to their headquarters, so all the behind-the-scenes action ahead.
Election Night in America is brought to you by ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges. And
is right for you.
Emerald. Go to CNN.com/election to get up-to-the-minute news on the races.
And they were 3 wise guys.
Yeah, right
I could go over here, too. I don't know why I always get... I can do the billboard.
Let's see it.
I don't want to touch it.
Come on.
I feel uncomfortable. What should I hit? Let's save Virginia. What's happening here? Ah.
You see that?
Yeah, that was exciting. The power.
I tell you what's fascinating right now is this state right here. Look at Florida, Megan. You have 90% of the vote in. It's a 1-point edge between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. I mean, do the math right here. That's about 25,000 votes between the two of them.
Got to stand you by because I'm being told we have a race call. Let's get back to Brett.
Okay, Fox News can now project that President Obama will win the state of Minnesota and its 10 electoral votes. The North Star state has always leaned toward Obama, but Romney held out hope in the closing weeks of that campaign of possibly poaching the Democratic stronghold, although that was a long shot, according to many analysts. There you see the check mark. Even though 23% of the vote is in, the Fox News decision desk can give the state of Minnesota and its 10 electoral votes to President Obama. With that, you have the electoral math adding up. Right now, Mitt Romney, 174. President Obama, 173. Our map is filling in. There's still a lot of white there. Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio. And the national popular vote, the difference as it stands right now, a little bit more than 1.5 million votes.
Wow.
America's election headquarters continues after this.
America's election headquarters is brought to you by Infinity, luxury cars that deliver inspired performance. Go to foxnews.com for more.
Did you bring it, Grandpa?
I've got it, sweetie. 40-year-old tradition to keep. I hope we make it.
We'll make it.
Winter is the season to bring family together. Visit the Infinity Limited Engagement Winter event for the best offers of the season, including an Infinity JX for $499 a month. Infinity, inspired performance.
I don't know. I just can't imagine that retiring someday is even an option for Sean and me.
How'd you get comfortable enough to know you could really do it?
Well, planning, of course. And we got a lot of good advice. A few years ago, your mom and I put some money into a Pacific Life fixed annuity that guarantees us an income for the rest of our lives, whether Social Security is all there or not. Hey, hey!
To learn more about a guaranteed lifetime income from Pacific Life, visit pacificlife.com.
Wreck-It Ralph has made his mama proud.
I love my mama!
Disney's Wreck-It Ralph is the #1 movie in the nation. Time magazine raves it's packed with wickedly smart humor, and USA Today calls it dazzling. Wow. Disney's Wreck-It Ralph, now playing in 3D, rated PG.
I'm Jessica, and this is my emergency. Keeping up with the kids is tough, so I drink Emergency. With vitamin C for immune support and B vitamins for natural energy, I'm ready for whatever they get into. Get your free sample at myemergency.com. Stay healthy and feel the good.
Fail, Droid powers through. Introducing the new Droid Razr Max HD by Motorola. Now more than ever, Droid does.
Welcome back to America's election headquarters. We're watching those states too close to call. Florida, top of the list. It is very, very tight. You just heard it could be within 10,000 votes at the end. Ohio, still very tight there as some of the raw total is coming in. 66% of the expected vote is in. Florida and Ohio, of the 10 largest states, only Florida and Ohio gave winning presidential candidates margins of less than 5% in 2000, 2004, and 2008 elections.
That is just incredible. Down to the state of Virginia we go, and that too is still too close to call. Take a look at the numbers. 76% of the expected vote count in, and we are showing a slight lead for Governor Romney at this hour. In North Carolina, a similar situation, although more of the expected vote is counted. 97% is in, and you can see Mitt Romney now has a 3-point lead over Barack Obama there.
As we take a look at the electoral map, again, the map is filling in. Mitt Romney 174, President Obama 173, and the big race is to 270.
I want to bring in Susan Estrich now. She was the campaign manager for Michael Dukakis in his 1988 presidential run. Susan, your thoughts so far?
Well, I think it's pretty much going according to what we all thought, Megan. I think the president, you know, if I had to take it
pick of whose chair I'd want to be in right now, it looks a lot better for President Obama. I think you've all been talking about it. I mean, Mitt Romney's got a tightrope to walk right now. If any one of these states falls, there's no way he gets to 270. So it's a fun election, but nothing has really surprised me yet.
You know, having managed the Michael Dukakis campaign, are familiar with the losing feeling. Your thoughts on what's going on right now at the headquarters of each campaign?
Well, you know, downstairs you've got all these people milling around, and there's a big divide on election night between downstairs and upstairs. Downstairs you've got people milling around, having a drink. Every once in a while somebody from the campaign will come down so they can talk to your reporter. They'll get calls in. Upstairs is where the fun is, and upstairs you've got a candidate sitting there who's trying to be calm, who's with his family, who's going to just watch this. For the first time in years, there's nothing he can do. And you've got people wildly working the phones. I've been on both ends of this. And, you know, you're sitting there. I've been sitting in Dade County, Florida, and they're calling you saying, how's it looking? Well, you have no idea how it's really looking, but you come up with some numbers, and that's what's going on. And then you have the people in your studio calling the people in the room upstairs, saying what's going on, and they're saying, I guess from Romney, it could be very tight, which means, you know, get me another drink. You know? It's very tough up there.
What did you make of Robert Gibbs's answer? I don't know if you heard his interview here when we talked about how right now we're certainly looking at divided government, because it looks like the Senate's going to stay in the control of the Democrats, and the House is definitely staying in control of the Republicans. And these Republicans who had been so demonized by their opponents, you know, I mean, they weren't thrown out of office. Robert Gibbs is saying that they're going to change because their approval rating is low, but if they retain their jobs and didn't get thrown out by their constituents, why are they going to change?
Well, look, this will be the challenge to the president tonight, Megan, if he's reelected. As you've said all along, if he's reelected, and I think he will be reelected, it's going to be a tight election, particularly in the popular vote. We're going to have divided government. And the challenge to the president is, can he do jujitsu here? And instead of saying, in effect, I have no mandate, say, I have a mandate to heal this divided nation. I mean, we are a house divided. When there's a big storm or a foreign policy crisis, we come together. Then our political leadership, at least until this point, takes us right down the middle again. And I think there is a majority in this country for actually governing and doing something, and not just when there's a hurricane. So the challenge for the president is going to be, can he form a different kind of governing majority? If he's reelected, it's his last campaign. Can he put something together in the center? And frankly, the challenge for Republicans, if they lose tonight at the presidency, is going to be to take a hard look at themselves and say, what went wrong?
Susan Estrich, thank you so much. And you can see right there, we are 9 seconds away from the next poll closings, and we do have several states and updates now to call. Stand by as the results come in.
Fox News can now project that Mitt Romney will win North Carolina and its 15 electoral votes. That is a big win. We've been waiting for it all night long. Analysts at the beginning of this race believed that North Carolina was going to go into Mitt Romney's category and column early in this race. You'll remember the Democrats held their convention there. This waited until pretty much late in the evening, but Mitt Romney will win the state of North Carolina and those electoral votes.
I want to bring you an update from the state of Idaho, where Fox News is now projecting that Governor Mitt Romney will win that state. That's a new call, as well as now we've got an update for you in the state of Washington. That state, Fox News is projecting President Obama will win the state of Washington, along with the state of Hawaii. So again, still, we don't have any surprise calls, but we are filling in some blanks and offering some check marks.
California, the biggest and most populous prize of the night, which carries with it a whopping 55 electoral votes, will, no surprise, go to President Barack Obama. So with that, filling in our map, there you see the electoral votes, 244 for President Obama, 193 for Mitt Romney, 270 now needed for the White House. You'll see Florida there, hanging out there on the corner, and Virginia, Ohio, and still waiting on Iowa, Colorado, and the states out west as well. Too close to call.
You can see why they'd like to win California. Boy, that really ups your electoral count.
55.
And handily.
That can make it happen.
California, New York, and Texas, of course, big electorally rich states, and so is Florida. And we have no update for you there. We are not able to call that. We are not able to call Virginia. We are not able to call Ohio. And that will tell the story.
Okay, we do have another call in the Senate. We can now call. Fox projects that the Democrat, Tim Kaine, former governor, will win the Senate seat in Virginia. He's eager to hang on to that seat. The Democrats were, from retiring Senator Jim Webb. Republican George Allen had a very robust effort to go after this Senate seat. He lost going after the Senate the last time, and Republicans thought that they could pull off a win. What this means for Mitt Romney in Virginia. Right now he holds a very slim lead in Virginia, but Tim Kaine will win the Senate seat there, and Democrats will hold the U.S. Senate.
Those Virginia governors, they like to serve. You know, they leave office and then they want to go back and they want to serve via the Senate, and they love it. I want to get to the panel now and ask them about their reaction. Now, Britt, let me ask you about that discussion I had with Robert Gibbs. So he says, you know, in a second term, these House Republicans, they're going to be different. Like we're going to see different results second time around if we have a President Obama again and we have House Republicans and Senate Dems, because their approval ratings are so low, they're going to have to change.
Well, your point that you just made earlier, it seems to me, that is the right point, which is that they got reelected. If you look at the big issue, what's the most divisive big issue? It's the budgetary issue. That's the one that they're going to have to deal with early and often. And tonight we had that as an exit poll question. Do you think we should raise taxes to help close the deficit? I don't think that may not be an exact quote, but that's basically what the essence of the question was. It came out, I think, 66 to 33, no. So you're a newly elected or newly reelected Republican congressman, and, you know, particularly cotton to tax increases to begin with, and you're elected by an electorate that says that, or elected when the national electorate says that. Are you going to feel under some compulsion to go along with the president's desire to raise taxes on anybody? Now, if the question were framed, raise taxes on the rich, you'd probably get a different result. But you get the picture. I mean, Republicans are probably not going to yield, at least easily, on that. Now, there's got to come a time somewhere along the way here when we have some major retrenchments in spending on the entitlement programs, because they're the big drivers of the debt and the deficits. And when that day comes, there may come a time when Republicans might say, okay, once these cuts go into effect, or once we're sure they're real, we'll agree to tax increases. But I don't think you're going to see that early. No way.
Kirsten, as Britt puts it, Mitt Romney could still run the inside straight tonight, and we have a long way to go still, according to our decision desk. But if President Obama does win, what is it in his past 4 years that shows Democrats that he is going to be willing to negotiate with Republicans or moderate somehow with Capitol Hill? What is it over the past 4 years that is the track record that actually will happen in the second 4 years?
Well, I don't think that he's being reelected because, in terms of Democrats, I don't know that Democrats necessarily want him to be.
No, I know, but that's what his people are talking about.
Right, but I don't think that that's what Democrats want from him. And if anything, he's probably more likely to work with Republicans now that he's a lame duck. He's not running for re-election again. He had to keep his base happy or he would not be re-elected. I mean, he had to have the same coalition of people come out for him again, and they would have been unhappy if he was just giving in on things. So
but if he didn't moderate or triangulate before 2010, when he took that big loss and said he was handed this huge loss by Republicans, if after that, ahead of this presidential election, we didn't see this move to the center from President Obama, what's to indicate that the second 4 years, if he wins tonight, that he would do that?
Well, I don't know that there is an indication. This is a much longer conversation, definitely, but I think...
You have 30 seconds.
Yeah. But I think, you know, I don't think he wanted to, you know, he couldn't triangulate and keep his base, is my point. I think that he needed to do the things that he did, and if ever there was going to be a time to come together, it would be now. if Republicans are interested in doing it. And I would argue that they're not interested, and they weren't interested before. And I think what Americans voted for tonight is more gridlock.
But look, I've got a simpler, shorter answer to that. There is no indication that he would come to the center. There's none whatsoever. I mean, as you suggest, he didn't do it before 2010. And then after 2010, unlike Bill Clinton in 1994, who went on and came to the middle, obviously, rather famously, this president chose not to do that and went more ideological in this campaign.
Stand by, because we're going to make a call now. In the state of Missouri, Fox News can now project that Mitt Romney will win Missouri and its 10 electoral votes. And so we'll put the map back up on the board in a moment so you can see the electoral totals. But that, yeah, there you have it. Mitt Romney with 203, President Obama with 244, magic number 270, as Fox News calls the state of Missouri for Mitt Romney. I want to get back to you on that point. The gridlock in Washington seems like it has to stop. We're about to go over the fiscal cliff. It's going to happen. I mean, President Obama said in that one debate, it's not going to happen, which came as news because it is going to happen unless there is some law change in Washington. I mean, unless they get together and change.
Right, I think that, I mean, we just have a real fundamental disagreement here. I think the gridlock comes from the Republicans. And
okay, so that's fine. So, but let's assume it does.
Well, let's
if they are not motivated and President Obama's not motivated, then what changes?
They should be motivated. If you even look at the Senate races that they've lost in the last couple cycles, and these Tea Party candidates and the kind of havoc that they're wreaking in the Republican Party. I mean, there were the 2 Senate seats. Claire McCaskill was the most vulnerable senator, and she lost because of this Tea Party candidate. I mean, I think the Republicans have to stop and take a look at their party, because it's not that President Obama is not moderate; is that the Republican Party is so
no, but
far
he didn't
out
do
in
it
right
after.
field.
He didn't do it after 2010. That's my point. He's the president of the United States.
But they're not moderate. There's no moving to the middle with them. They're like all the way over here. It's not.
There's no moving to the middle with the president. He's the president of the United States. He didn't do any of that. He didn't pretend to do any of that.
Raising taxes on rich people is not a radical position. That is a fairly moderate position. You know, that's supported by the majority of Americans, and Republicans will not meet the president in the middle. I really do think that the problem isn't
well, the problem, what I would say about that case, the trouble with that argument is that the issue we're trying to address is this yawning budget deficit, and even in this massive national debt, which is the cumulative effect of all those deficits. Raising taxes on rich people doesn't get you anywhere near the kind of money you need to begin to address the problem. So are you going to ask Republicans to abandon something that they believe in, which is that raising taxes on the rich hurts the economy, whose strength you're going to need if you're ever going to close the budget deficit, in order to do something that doesn't raise very much money?
Let me just make 2 quick points. One is that in the numbers that we saw tonight, in fact, the voters say 48 to 47. They prefer Romney over Obama, but that's very slight, 48-47. There's no big difference there. The other thing to say is, and I think this answers your question, Megan, legacy. Your second term, he's got a legacy to build. And he's got to build on the idea that he's taking care of big problems in America. Big problem, fiscal cliff. Big problem, getting the economy going. So he does have added incentive now, as opposed to 2010, to get something done. And I think you'll see it.
Or for the betterment of the country.
That's what I'm saying.
One of the two.
That's what I'm saying. In order to say, I'm helping America, I'm your president, and I want a legacy beyond the health care law, he'd have to make a deal.
Okay, panel, stand by. Another race call for you. In Nebraska, Fox News can now project that Republican Deb Fischer will win the Senate seat there, being vacated by Democratic Senator Ben Nelson, thereby ending Democrat Bob Kerry's quest to return to the Senate. So the Republican has picked up a Democratic seat there. You may remember Kerry ran for the Democratic presidential nomination in 1992. He was also a one-term Nebraska governor, 2 terms as senator. He was trying to pull off an upset here. Democrats had high hopes, but Deb Fischer, the Republican, will win that Democratic seat.
Ben Nelson, who went completely off the radar after the health care law was passed, and he was part of the Cornhusker kickback, and he was so heavily criticized, and he had been all over the media prior to that, and then we really never saw him again, and decided to retire.
That's exactly right.
Now a Republican seat.
Enough about what could happen down the road up on Capitol Hill. Let's talk about what's happening right now. The votes that are coming in, the fact that Florida is possibly as close as it is, Britt, within 10,000 votes. What are you seeing? What are you hearing?
Well, look, I'm in the same place all the rest of you are. We're looking at a situation where there are only a couple of battleground states still out there. We basically know how the rest of the country has gone. The president enjoys a lead. He has, he doesn't have to win much more to be reelected. Mitt Romney is going to have to win these other places. He's going to have to win Ohio. He'll have to win Virginia. He'll have to win Florida. He needs them all. That could happen. It's not at all impossible. But, we've looked at a night when we thought we would be looking at a night perhaps where Michigan and Pennsylvania and some of these other places would be in play. They turned out not to be. And I come back once again to this point. And I think we need to have a kind of a discussion about this, because we are going to understand more at the end of this night than we did going in about what the American electorate is. It's clearly not on the verge of delivering some huge mandate for the reelected president if he is reelected. It's very close. Popular vote is practically a tie, as Juan was just pointing out. So, that tells us something. We also learned something about moderates and liberals tonight. It's interesting, Megan, that I said here on the air a little while ago that it turns out that a lot of these people who self-identify as moderates are actually liberals, and you can tell by how they voted. Well, some people thought I meant independents. That's a whole different picture. Romney is winning independents, not by a huge margin, but by some margin, which tells you that Republicans and a larger majority of independents could be a winning coalition tonight. So that's how that breaks out. It's a different category altogether. Independents and moderates are different.
Well, what of that? I mean, is there any sort of a mandate for President Obama to govern if he comes in with a country so fractured and so divided right now, and the House Republicans, still in control on that branch?
Well, I think first of all, yes, the country's polarized. But again, it's curious to look at the numbers and to look at the moderates that Britt was just describing. Because if you look at something like, for example, foreign policy, I'm sorry, I need to wrap.
Yeah, sorry, Juan. This is a big one.
Sorry, Juan.
This is a Fox News election alert. Fox News can now project that President Obama will win the crucial battleground state of Ohio, long considered to be the harbinger for the nation with its 18 electoral votes. Ohio, this was the entire ball game. A major setback, obviously, for Governor Romney, whose path to 270 electoral votes needed just got considerably narrow, and now we can say that Barack Obama will win Ohio. That is a huge, huge win for Barack Obama.
That's the one we've all been waiting for. And there's a question now about, what does that mean, panel? I mean, does that mean that
that's the presidency?
That's the ball whack. That's it.
Essentially, Barack Obama is reelected.
Some unbelievable miracle would have to occur in some completely. I don't see how this isn't going to happen. The president has won re-election. And look, the point should be made here. I mean, I believe that, we all know that incumbency is an advantage, but I believe that it was equally a burden in this election. And I think that his team engineered a campaign that basically overcame that overcame the fact that the economy had not recovered in the kind of way that it needed to, that unemployment rate was still high, that his signature achievement, Obamacare, was unpopular. These were real burdens. And they managed to put together a campaign that overcame that. It's narrow, it's close, and so forth. But they did it. And I think it is a major political achievement, because it wasn't easy.
Want to check in, where are we going? We're going to Chris Wallace?
The campaign headquarters. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry is live at Obama campaign headquarters in Chicago. Ohio, a big win. You can hear them cheering behind you, Ed. Give us the fallout there.
They're almost reaching pandemonium now, Brett, because they feel it. They know the president's now crossed this threshold, despite the fact that unemployment is still hovering near 8%. This president is going to be reelected. They know that behind me. This place has been filling over the last hour or so with more and more people. We're told at this hour the president is getting this information across town at the Fairmont Hotel here in Chicago. He's not here at McCormick Place just yet. He's there with staff. He's there with family. He's greeting them. He's thanking them for what they've done so far. And in case there's any doubt about any of the other remaining states out there, I just spoke to a senior Obama advisor who says that their pollsters are telling them that in Florida, what's left out there looks pretty good for the president. Some counties where they think they'll do well. We don't know that for a fact yet, that it still has to come in, but they're still feeling good that they might be able to get Florida. Obviously, the popular vote's still out there as to whether or not, the president can claim a full mandate or not, Brett.
So, Ed, were they expecting this weight on Florida and this Ohio call? Are you getting immediate reaction?
Right here, again, Ohio would put the president over the top at 71%. Governor Romney's still in play. That is very, very close. But when you look at places, what's out? A lot of the vote that's out is right there in Cuyahoga County. That's the president's territory. Some of the vote that's out is down here in Franklin County. That's the president's territory. So if you're looking for a Mitt Romney comeback strategy, can it happen here in Ohio? It's unlikely to find it there. And, Wolf, as I go back to you, I'll also just show the Florida number one more time. A narrow but stubbornly consistent lead for the president in battleground Florida as well.
John, we have another projection to make right now. They're coming in pretty quickly. Let's take a look. And CNN projects Missouri will be won by the Republican presidential nominee, Mitt Romney. He will capture all 10 of Missouri's electoral votes. If more than 50% of the vote is now in, 58% for Romney, 40% for Barack Obama. Based on those indicators, we have projected Missouri will go for Mitt Romney. So where does it put us on the road to 270? Romney now has broken the 200 barrier. He's at 201. The president of the United States significantly ahead at 256. So Missouri helps Mitt Romney, but maybe not enough.
Maybe not enough. If you look at what's left out there, the only sure bet for Governor Romney right now is the state of Alaska. So let's assign the state of Alaska to Governor Romney. That would get him up to 204. Then you look at the map right here, and at the moment, the president is favored in Nevada. The president is leading in Colorado. The president is leading in Florida. The president is leading in Virginia. And last time I looked, Governor Romney, unless switch maps, was leading but just narrowly in Virginia. So you're looking at the map right here. Let's just do this before we switch maps. That's a relatively safe bet. That would get the president at 262. And again, after that, any one state gets you over the top. Wolf?
We've got a really major projection to make right now. CNN projects that Barack Obama will be re-elected president of the United States. He will remain in the White House for another 4 years because we project he will carry the state of Ohio. By carrying Ohio, he wins re-election. The president of the United States defeats Mitt Romney in this at this time right now. We have made this projection, so the president wins this battle for the White House. They're excited in Chicago. They're excited at Times Square in New York. They're watching all over the world right now. The president of the United States has been re-elected right now. Let's listen in to some of the excitement. So you can see the Empire State Building now has turned blue because that is our projection. The President of the United States has won re-election. Let the world know that at 11:18 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States, we projected this win, the re-election of Barack Obama for another 4 years. The president will be the winner. Mitt Romney will lose this election. We'll see what happens in these other states. But let's go to Jessica Yellen right now, our chief White House correspondent, watching all of this unfold in Chicago. Jessica.
Well, the euphoria in the room is evident. These people have worked hard for the president. Everyone in this room was in one way or another a volunteer for the campaign. While this was a very different kind of campaign from 2008, what is not different is the kind of coalition the president put together to re-elect him. A very different vision of or makeup of America that is diverse, that is heavily Latino, African-American, relied on single women, and where the president played heavily to their interests. And this is a kind of coalition the president made clear he was interested in appealing to, and it's a lesson that the Republican Party will learn from. I will also point out, Wolf, that the president did make some explicit promises about what he would do in a second term, cutting the deficit and not extending the tax cuts for the Americans, among others.
Jessica, hold on for a moment. I want to listen to some of the people cheering. They are so excited right now. The president supporters at Times Square, the president supporters in Chicago, elsewhere around the world. Let's go back to Chicago. Brianna Keeler, our White House correspondent, is right in the middle of the crowd up there. We're going to try to hear what you have to say, Brianna. Get that microphone right up to your mouth.
Hi, Wolf. It's a very excited crowd here, but I will tell you, I did talk to some people after our projection of Ohio, and I said, are you surprised that things wrapped up so early? And they said, yes. I think people here were settling in for a rather long night. They thought it was going to be more suspenseful, but they're certainly very excited, obviously, Wolf. With each projection that continues to come out, they get even more excited, and this is going to be continuing on for hours. Many of these people here were volunteering for President Obama. These are Illinois-based volunteers. They went door knocking, phone banking in Wisconsin and Iowa, key battleground states for President Obama. So these are certainly people who really feel like they have some ownership in his re-election here, Wolf.
Very excited in Chicago right now. I assume they're excited all over the country. All of the president's supporters, they worked hard for him to get re-elected. It's interesting that Ohio, by our projecting that he will carry the state of Ohio, that put him over the 270 mark. So the president goes on to win another 4 years in the White House. Anderson, 4 years ago, we projected his win at exactly 11 p.m. on the East Coast. Tonight, we projected his win 18 minutes later at 11:18 p.m. on the East Coast.
Well, we continue to watch the crowds of Obama supporters celebrating. Let's talk to our panelists, our contributors, and our analysts. Just some initial thoughts. Alex?
Well, boy, that hurts. But the current President of the United States is now the future President of the United States. And now it's time for all of us to remember that what this is all about, and that's about leading a country to a better place. So now I think it's incumbent for Republicans to be as gracious as they were passionate about this election and go sit at the table and see what we can do to deal with some of the impending problems.
Ben Jones, they're from the Democratic perspective.
I agree. I think that the Republican Party is a great party, historically, a party of Abraham Lincoln, a party of Teddy Roosevelt as an environmentalist. It's a party that I respect and admire. I think that there have been some elements in there that maybe pulled it too far in one direction. That can be corrected. This is an opportunity for us to come together. It is, as you said, Mr. Bergen, it's a 50-50 country. But this is, I think, for people who saw this president struggling and wanted to see him be able to have a second chance. It's a big emotional moment for us, but it's also a big opportunity for the country.
Margaret Hoover, a Republican, I mean, do you think that's the message the Republican Party takes away from this, that they went too far to the right? Because I think there's a lot of elements of the Republican Party will say they weren't true to their conservative values.
I think what you'll see is the Republican Party take a moment, step back, and descend a little bit into warlordism, as it did at the end of in 2008. I think there's going to be a lot of fighting because the Republican Party is made up, the conservative movement, of many different factions: libertarians, economic libertarians, social conservatives, national security hawks. There's going to be fight over the narrative, over who is going to control the Republican Party, and there is no elected leader of the Republican Party for the next 4 years.
You don't win the middle as a Republican by becoming a Democrat, by just, quote, moderating. If you're tied and you want to take market share from Fab, you don't say, hey, I'm more like Fab. You say, I'm new, improved Tide. The Republican Party needs to move forward not sideways.
Put this in a broader perspective if I can. I had the opportunity today to go to the Jefferson Memorial, and it just reminds you what a pageant of democracy this is. This is a wonderful country that can have an election like this, and an African-American can not only win once, but can win twice. There's something about that that speaks to sort of what America is and our promise. I think the question now, my interpretation of a lot of this data is that there were an awful lot of people that voted today who would like to see more moderation in our politics. The moderates were the largest self-identified.
Both on the left and the right.
And left and the right. They're asking the right on immigration. As Gloria said earlier tonight, they're clearly in favor of doing something now about providing a path to citizenship, but they also don't want the president to go too far over to the left. So I think there's a chance for them to come together. But more, you ought to have a moment here in all of this where they all sort of can celebrate the democracy. It's a wonderful thing to see us go through this. Most countries don't have anything like this.
These moments are always wonderful, and I think we need to give an awful lot of credit to the Obama campaign, which ran yet again another terrific campaign. The contents of the campaign, however, are not as great as these moments, because we saw a very negative, nasty campaign, a small campaign that didn't rise to the kind of joy we see in people's eyes today. And I think what they are asking for, as we go ahead and we look at a Congress that has to confront the fiscal cliff, I think they're looking for the Congress and the president, even though it's a status quo situation, to come back in a different frame of mind.
We should just point out, I just want to show the popular vote right now, because right now Mitt Romney is leading in the popular vote. Of course, those numbers can change, but we are projecting, of course, that President Barack Obama will be reelected.
It's such a divided country, as we saw in all the exit poll results, and you see in the division in the popular vote.
Does President Obama now have to lead differently? Do Republicans in Congress have to behave differently?
President Obama got one of the rarest things we get in politics and in life, and that's a second chance. He is now a more mature leader. He now has seen some of his shortcomings tested in the public arena, that he hasn't built relationships, that he hasn't addressed some of the fiscal matters that he needs to address. My hope is that we're going to see, Bill Clinton stumbled, fell, came back into American politics, and grew as a president. He may do it. I hope Obama does the same.
James, Alex was just making the point that he thinks President Obama has to now lead differently, that he's seen some of the mistakes. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'm watching an election. The president's going to be reelected. The Democrats are going to retain the Senate. And people are saying, well, the Republicans are not budge. Obama has to meet them 80% of the way. Why did we have an election? I mean, there's a reason that we have it. I mean, and he's going to, sure, Obama's not going to get everything that he wants, but he should get more of what he wants.
Do you think he should interpret this as a mandate?
No, it's not. I don't think it's a mandate. It's not a mandate. But what the public is saying is they're giving him power back. He certainly doesn't have to give up 80% of what he wants. He should get more of what he wants than the Republicans, because we had an election.
But he didn't run on what he wanted. He ran on don't go back to what the other guy did. So there is no...
President Obama, both candidates said you have a clear choice. They both laid out a vision. There was a more laissez-faire vision that was laid out by Mitt Romney, I think taken to extremes, and President Obama said very clearly he wanted to have a way forward with a balanced approach when it comes to deficit. He laid out a vision, and he has a mandate for that. And part of that mandate is taxes will have to be raised on the wealthy people. People who have done well in America will have to do well by America and begin to pay America back. He was consistent about that for a year. That is a part of his mandate going forward.
And you're looking at the picture in Boston, in Romney's hometown, where you see cheering among Obama supporters there as well.
I'm not sure that either of these candidates laid out a true vision. I think that right now is an opportunity for both the Republicans and for the president. I was told that the president this week may give some sort of economic speech, or may hold some sort of availability to talk to the American public.
Well, we're certainly, and we're expecting to hear, obviously, from President Obama tonight, as well as from Governor Romney. We are obviously bring you those both those speeches as soon as they happen. Certainly a lot to digest in not only tonight, but also in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, he's got the fiscal cliff coming up very, very soon, so he does need to lay out sort of what everybody's been expecting him to lay out.
But what is the path to actually change? I mean, at this point, who needs to give more? Because Obama supporters will say Republicans have been intransigent from early on.
The predominant thought in the marketplace, too, is that, you know, Wall Street was hoping that Romney would win only because they felt that the combination of the president and the Republican Congress, this intransigent Republican Congress, simply couldn't get the deal done. That something needed to go.
But that's like saying that the Republicans get to be rewarded by being intransigent because Democrats couldn't get anything done, so you got to give it to Republicans.
The tone that we're going into Washington in is entirely polarized. 80%, over 80% of the advertisements on both sides in this election were negative advertisements.
It's going to be so self-destructive. I mean, let's look at that. They're going to go over the fiscal cliff and cause another recession. I choose not to believe that, but I do believe they could come up with a framework of some kind.
This beating has been so large that I think you're going to find Republicans not accommodating, but you're going to find Republicans very realistic. Until Republicans learn how to move forward, you're going to find Republicans. I mean, I think right now
so
we're
looking
at
movement. You see movement on immigration reform?
I think you see movement right now. They're going to be, quote, revenues, as Democrats say, especially on upper-income taxpayers. I don't think they should start with something like immigration because it's a very polarizing issue. Go to the economic stuff where you're going to find common ground now. But please don't put immigration on the table first, because the fighters will go to their respective corners and become polarized again.
What's important here is the president not go immediately into the details of where he wants to go. What's important is to set a new tone. He wants to, in effect, close the chapter on the first term and open a new chapter in his relationship with Congress in his second term. He needs to open a new chapter with the business community to go to because there's hostility there. And I think he, as Churchill would argue, in victory magnanimity, he has to take the first step. He ought to make the first step, but then he ought to invite them to the White House. I agree with James. He shouldn't give up 80%. I don't think that, but I think he's got to have.
But is that in the president's DNA? Because
no, he can't. No, you couldn't dictate. That's not what he can do. But the idea that somehow or another Obama has to, that the election has to have a consequence. The voters, in effect, have weighed in tonight. Their view has to be respected. Obama has to respect the view. And yes, I don't know what the magic number is. But there got to be some movement.
And there are some liberals.
By the way, we know how this works. We've seen it done successfully before by a very brilliant Democrat and his very, very talented team of operatives, Bill Clinton and James Carvin. They did it when they got beat in a midterm election. This president now, even though he won, has to do the same thing. He has to move toward the middle.
Listen to what he said.
So do Republicans.
Well, that's what will put pressure on Republicans to do that.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Gergen. There's a myth here that this president did not want to reach out, that he did not want to. Many of his efforts were rebuffed. He tried to put forward tax cuts for small business. He was rebuffed. He tried to put forward help for veterans. He was rebuffed. He tried to put forward tax cuts for 98% of Americans. He was getting rebuffed on putting tax cuts on the table. I think the Republicans now have a chance to say, you know what? We'll take your offer. The Republicans now have an opportunity to behave differently and to reach out across it. It should not just be on Barack Obama. Both of them have missed opportunities to cooperate with each other.
The president has to lead.
Obamacare.
Fair enough.
The president has to lead, and in talking to Democrats, I think there's a discussion going on right now inside the Democratic Party about how is best to do that. Does the president go and say, here's my plan, here's what I want to do, and put it on the table and have them come to the table and negotiate? Or does he just sort of open it up for discussion?
What happens about the battle of Obamacare? Does that now...
Obamacare?
So it's settled.
It's resolved.
Nothing will happen to it.
I think the question becomes partly here how the Democrats interpret this election. If they see this as a big thumping victory because they've won these electoral votes, that's going to lead them to a path I think will get them into trouble. I think if they realize the country is deeply divided, and they've won a very substantial election, but it's worth remembering, I've gone back, you go all the way back to the beginning of the 20th century. Every second-term president who has won re-election has always done so by increasing his share of the vote the second time out. This is the first time we've had a president go from a big percentage to a smaller percentage. And that ought to be the cautionary note.
Point out, if you look at the popular vote right now, it is getting closer and closer now. Mitt Romney's only ahead by 226,000 some odd votes, and the popular vote, 63% of the popular vote being reported. Breonna Keeler is with some Obama supporters right now who are obviously elated. Breonna, what are you hearing?
Hi there, Anderson. I am here with a 15-year-old supporter of President Obama's. Her name is Kendall Herbert, and she's actually been volunteering with the Obama campaign since she was just 8 years old. So, Kendall, tell me, what did this feel like to see the projection that President Obama has been reelected?
It was kind of like, again, 2008. I kind of just had the moment again. I started crying in 2008, and then it came again. And I kind of felt like my hard work paid off, and it's just a really good feeling.
So you actually are too young to vote, obviously. You're 15 years. How does it feel to have spent all of this time working to elect someone who you will never be able to vote for?
It kind of, at the same time, is like a bad feeling, but at the same time, it feels like so good knowing that I can make an impact at such a young age, which I like. But voting-wise, it's kind of sad. Like, I watched my mom fill out her ballot, and I'm like, can I just step in for a second, check it off? But, yeah.
Now, to be clear, you're not quite satisfied. You said to me that you're hoping next time that you will see what elected?
A woman. Like a female for once, like Oprah.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, but certainly this is a supporter of President Obama's, Anderson, who has very high hopes. She spent time doing phone banks and canvassing in Iowa and Wisconsin, despite the fact that she is 3 years shy of voting age, Anderson.
We're obviously waiting to hear from President Obama as well as Governor Romney. If you were Joe Biden tonight, by the way, are you now looking at 2016 and getting very excited?
Let's wait till midnight.
He's got a career still on Saturday Night Live. But this does make it a little more difficult for Hillary Clinton. Assuming she leaves the administration. Now, James says she's got no thoughts of such a thing, and he'd certainly know better than I do. But this does make it more difficult for Hillary Clinton.
And who becomes Secretary of State?
John Kerry. I actually don't know if it makes it more difficult for Hillary Clinton. I think President Clinton is going to get a great deal of credit in this. I think Secretary of State Clinton has done a great job. I think that's all down the road. One thing I think we haven't talked about is look at what's happening in the Senate. You have, from a Democratic point of view, this has been a great night in the Senate. You have Elizabeth Warren, a true progressive hero, going in. It looks like you're going to have a stronger liberal basis in the Senate. Again, that's no reason to move to the center recklessly. It's not about moving from the left to the right. It's about finding a deal that will work for America. And I think that this president was willing to do that a year ago. I think there's a myth out there that this president did not want to cooperate. I think he did want to. I think he had a hard time finding a partner because of the Tea Party cause.
James, you were talking earlier about this being a testament to the ground game, to this much vaunted ground game that President Obama put in place and the money that they devoted to it. You work in that world. Explain why it was so significant.
Well, it looks like if you just look at the results, it does seem that President Obama's vote in the battleground states is exceeding his vote outside the battleground states. And they have spent an enormous amount of money. I've heard up to $3 million developing $300 million, a very sophisticated operation. A lot of people, including me early on, were very skeptical about it. There was a lot written about it. There was a big piece in the New York.
What was your skepticism early on?
That I don't know if this stuff can really work in a sense it's never been tried before. And it looks like, yes, without getting into the details of it, it looks like, just based on a back-of-the-envelope calculation, that it probably did work, that they're exceeding vote totals in swing states that they weren't. But this is going to be fodder for political scientists for a long time to come. to see what this is. It's hard to dissect in a night.
I mean, this is highly scientific, advanced market segmentation of voters. What they do, I mean, the Bush 04 campaign did this, and then the Obama campaign took it to the nth degree. What they do is they identify voters based on their consumer preferences. They overlay consumer preferences with prospective voting preferences, and then they are able to target, micro-target based on all of these consumer preferences, emailing, knocking on doors, how that voter would like to be touched, how are they going to best receive that campaign's message.
It also did seem that President Obama did a very good job of sort of targeting groups, traditional supporters within the Democratic Party and energizing them, gay and lesbian voters by switching his position on marriage equality, getting a lot of support for that, Latinos as well. I mean, they went sort of piece by piece and appeal to them.
Yes, and I think it's been well remarked that whereas Romney had a more of a national message, that the Obama people are very smart about understanding the elements of their coalition. They not only appealed to them, but they did things along the way, such as with the Latinos, when they stopped enforcing the laws effectively and sort of created their own Dream Act kind of a situation. What they did with women, with Lilly Ledbetter, and what they did on abortion issues and everything like that. I mean, they actually did deliver some things, and of course with working class wage, which was so important in the Midwest.
And women, it seems, were very important, obviously. I mean, when we look at tonight.
Women have put him back in the White House. I mean, women made up 54% of the electorate, and they voted 55% for President Obama. And that gender gap, which was large, really had put him back.
And Romney didn't get enough men to counterbalance that. But in terms of the coalition, the one thing as we look forward, and maybe Van can speak to this, which is if you put together this coalition.
Jan, thank you very much. Bob, you had an observation about this.
Yeah, we're getting some data now from the national exit polls, which are giving us some reason why that Barack Obama won tonight. 54% approve of the job he is doing. That's according to voters who came out of the voting booths today. This is a national poll. 53%, he had a favorable rating among 53% versus 46% for Romney. 70% decided who to vote for before September. 42% said handling of Sandy was an important factor in their decision. And, you know, that's one thing we haven't really talked much about. There were those stunning pictures of Governor Christie and Barack Obama, and Governor Christie being so gracious and thanking for the help that the federal government did. But those pictures were only part of the story. The other part of that story was this time, unlike what happened after Katrina, this time the federal relief agencies and the state agencies actually did a really good job. And I think people just, may have given the president some credit for that.
Nancy Cordes is there in Chicago at the Obama victory rally. Nancy?
Well, Scott, a short time ago, the president, who is not here at his victory rally yet, but is down the street at an upscale hotel, thanking, no doubt, his staffers who helped him go over the top tonight. He sent out an email to all of his supporters across the country, telling them thank you and saying this was no accident tonight. This is because of everything that you did. And it is true that tonight's election is a validation of his vaunted ground game. He had 800 field offices across the country concentrated in those battleground states compared to 300 for Governor Romney. Just look at Ohio. The president had 137 field offices in that state. Governor Romney, 39. Now, the Romney campaign always argued that that didn't matter, that they weren't in the real estate business. They didn't need to be popping a lot of tents and paying a lot of rents. But the Obama campaign argued that it was crucially important, just as it was important that they had the same neighborhood captains in place for the past 5 years who knew every single person in their neighborhood, knew how they voted, knew how to get them to the polls. And the Obama campaign said that that was really the key to their victory tonight. The fact that this was the first first president in history, really, to keep his campaign apparatus intact, not just intact, but build on it. And in fact, we learned over the weekend that the Obama campaign registered 1.8 million new voters over the past 4 years. That's double the number of voters that they registered before the 2008 campaign. So not only did they keep that apparatus that was responsible for the president getting 365 electoral votes, as you mentioned, in 2008, but they improved on it, and they had always said, Scott, that that's what was going to be their key to victory tonight.
Nancy, do we have any idea when we might hear from the president?
We don't. We've been asking that question, Scott. It's not going to be a long drive in the presidential motorcade from the Fairmont Hotel here to his victory rally, which is in a huge convention hall right on Lake Michigan in South Chicago. We assume that he's awaiting a call, perhaps has already gotten a call from Governor Romney thanking him. And I anticipate, Scott, that when the president takes the stage tonight, one person who he's going to be thanking, or should at least, is former President Bill Clinton. We've not talked a lot about President Clinton tonight, but when he delivered that speech at the Democratic National Convention a few months ago, it is as if a light bulb went on in the Obama campaign. They realized that in one speech, President Clinton had done a better job of selling the president's record than Mr. Obama himself had been doing. And you saw a huge turnaround in President Obama's stump speech. He started talking about his record much more aggressively. He started talking about arithmetic, as President Clinton had done, saying that Governor Romney's arithmetic just didn't add up. And they sent President Clinton out on the campaign trail, some 37 stops between the convention and today.
Do we, in fact, Scott, have any indication that Governor Romney has conceded yet?
We have not heard information to that effect. We have not heard. What have you got, Nora?
I'm told that Romney has not yet called the president, that his aides are saying that he's not yet ready. So at about 11:43, it appears that Romney has not yet called the president.
Well, we would expect at some point here that Romney would call the president, and then if things go as they normally do, we would expect to see Mitt Romney make a concession speech in Boston before we see the president come out to make a victory speech in Chicago.
He has not conceded, or he just hasn't called the president? It sounds to me like you're saying he hasn't conceded at this point.
I don't have enough information from inside their headquarters other than that the phone call's not yet been made. Yeah. And there are always different reasons for that. They might still be looking at the data themselves.
Now, John Dickerson, our CBS News political director, has been watching all of this. And John, it would appear that the president has won despite the economy and because of his campaign.
That's right. And, you know, people are going to start taking messages and lessons from this instantaneously. A couple of things. Listening to Nancy's reporting, the president has had a permanent campaign. So we all know that already there's a permanent campaign as a part of governing. Well, now it's in the rule book. Mitt Romney was running for 6 years. So for people who are tired of these long campaigns, there's nothing in this victory that's going to dissuade any candidate from not having a permanent campaign. The second message is go negative. Define your opponent relentlessly, ruthlessly, early, because that's what did it in Ohio. Now, what message do the Republicans take? There are three possibilities. One is that it was the storm that took the momentum away from Governor Romney. Another might be a re-examination of ideas, how to reach out to Hispanics and women voters. The third option is maybe that Mitt Romney wasn't a great candidate. That debate's going to start immediately because whoever wins that debate gets to define the Republican Party going forward.
John, thanks very much. Lafayette Park stands directly across the street from the White House. We have a picture from there tonight. Apparently, a number of people have gathered in Lafayette Park and across the street right in front of the gates of the White House. This is the scene there this evening.
I just figured
let's just listen in for a moment. Obviously, supporters of the president gathered outside the White House. The president, of course, is not at the White House tonight. He's in Chicago, and we expect to see him greeting his supporters there in McCormick Place on that stage in the not-too-distant future. But first, there will have to be some formalities done in terms of Mitt Romney conceding the election, calling the president, making a concession speech, and then once all of that is done, we would expect to see the president walk out to that podium in front of thousands of supporters there in Chicago. Anthony Mason has been looking into our exit polling information. We've been talking to voters in every state all day long as they've left the polling places, asking them how they voted and why they voted the way they did. So, Anthony, based on all of that, how did the president do it?
Well, Scott, it was interesting to see all those young people cheering outside the White House because young voters made up a big part of the coalition that helped the president this time. And it's three key groups that helped him 4 years ago as well. First, women. He took 55% of women to 43% for Governor Romney. That's about the same margin the president had 4 years ago. He won Hispanics, 69% of Hispanics. That's a better margin than he had 4 years ago. And as Nora has pointed out throughout the night, Hispanics are making up a bigger part of the electorate. They're 10% this time. They were 9% 4 years ago. His margin with younger voters did shrink somewhat, but he still won them going away, 60 to 36%. It's interesting, Bob mentioned that voters who left the polls told us that in general they approve of the president's job, a majority. 54% told us that. The other thing that's very interesting here is we know the economy was the top issue, but when people were asked who would do a better job on the economy, actually Mitt Romney had only a 1-point advantage here. This was the issue that was supposed to cut against the president. The unemployment rate was supposed to hurt him. In the end, he loses the economy as an issue by a single point, Scott.
Anthony, thank you very much. Let's have a look at the tabulated vote in Florida. There are still 3 states that we have not been able to make a projection. It's not going to make a difference in the outcome tonight, but it's interesting to see the tabulated vote in Florida because it is so very close. 91% of the vote has been counted in Florida, and have a look at that. There's about 50,000 votes between them. Again, if Mitt Romney wins Florida, it will make no difference in tonight's race, but an interesting division there in the state of Florida. The state of Virginia also is a state where we have not been able to make a projection. Let's have a look at the tabulated vote there in Virginia. 86% of the vote counted there, and it is just as close as it can be. Nora O'Donnell?
Yep. Some really interesting things as we're looking at this composite of the electorate. First, Hispanics, 10% of the electorate today. That's up 1%. They broke overwhelmingly for Obama by 69%. Females made up 54% of the electorate. That's bigger than expected. And it looks like to me that Obama won 12 points among women. Mitt Romney won 7 points among men. You add those together, that's a 19-point gender gap. That's huge. Now, these numbers are still changing as the exit polls come in, but that would be one of the biggest gender gaps since around 2000, the Al Gore, George W. Bush. Black voters, 13% of the electorate, and those broke for Obama.
Well, we have another election night bulletin. Not that it will change anything, but it adds to the president's margin of victory. CBS News is projecting that the state of Colorado will go the president's way with its 9 electoral votes. Let's have a look at the presidential race map as it stands at this moment. This is the presidential race map with the president with 290 electoral votes, 20 more than he needed to win the presidency. Mitt Romney with 203. The state of Florida and state of Virginia are still out because the vote is so very close there, but it cannot make a difference in tonight's outcome. Just by way of reference, in 2008, the president won with 365 electoral votes to John McCain's 173. So a big difference, a much closer race in this campaign, Bob Schieffer.
Yeah, it really is. But, you know, it's so interesting to watch that national vote come in and then look at what's happening in the Electoral College. It's almost like we have 2 different elections now. It's not a national election anymore. It's an election in these battleground states, and it's a totally different situation there. You're in a battleground state, you get all the ads, you get all the visits from the candidates. You're out there in California or Texas or Louisiana or someplace like that. You know, the election could be 1,000 miles away. I cannot help but believe that the fact that this is breaking down the way it is now, adds to the partisanship, to the deep divide in this country. Because, you know, I'm not saying that if Mitt Romney had spent more time out in California that he would have won, but at least the people out there would have gotten both sides of the argument.
Thank you, Bob. You're watching CBS News coverage of Election Night 2012. Welcome back to Election Night on CBS, where President Barack Obama has just won re-election for 4 more years in the White House. This is the scene in Chicago at the president's victory rally. We have not seen the president yet, and in fact, we have not heard that Mitt Romney has conceded the election yet. But the president has gone over the top tonight with more than the 270 electoral votes necessary, and the crowd there in Chicago knows it. Let's have a look at the presidential race map tonight as it stands at the moment. Only 2 states are still outstanding: state of Virginia, state of Florida, big states certainly, but they will not matter tonight because President Obama has already reached the 270 electoral votes and beyond necessary to win the presidency. Mitt Romney now no longer has any mathematical shot at becoming president of the United States. State of Alaska and is still voting, and we have not projected the state of whom that would go for Governor Romney. The state of Hawaii, the president's home state, of course, went for the president. Bob Schieffer, what a hard-fought campaign. What an expensive campaign. One of the things that strikes you about tonight is it's been estimated that about $6 billion was spent on the president's race, the Senate races, the House races, and what we have tonight is exactly what we started the day with. We have the Republicans in control of the House, the Democrats in control of the Senate, and President Obama in the White House. And the problems are the same. The problems that the government has been in total gridlock about over the last year remain. We're coming up on the fiscal cliff. They've got to do something. You're going to see these draconian cuts go into effect across the board, not only in defense, but in social programs. You're going to see the Bush tax cuts expire. I think if they don't do something about this, I think it'll throw the country into a recession. I mean, I think that's what most economists are saying. My prediction is they'll figure out some way to just sort of kick it down the road and deal with it later in the year. But let's hope that's not the case.
It's now whether President Obama decides to come into office, use this victory as an opportunity to make compromises with the Republicans, or whether he's emboldened by his victory tonight and feels less likely to compromise. Those are really the 2 scenarios. And we saw John Boehner sort of sending a signal early on that he's not willing to compromise. So the sides are at loggerheads. Someone is going to have to give here. But the electorate tonight voted for a divided Congress once again.
In the interview for the Evening News, we asked the president, why should the next 4 years be any different? And the president said, well, if I'm reelected, they'll realize they're stuck with me, and if anything's going to happen, they're going to have to deal with me. And so that is what the president is hoping will be the difference.
But the other
in
side
the next
of that
4 years.
He's stuck with them.
Yes, they are. CBS News coverage of tonight's campaign 2012 will continue in a moment.
It's a new episode that'll knock your kilt off.
I feel a little bit like Braveheart.
CBS Friday.
To get a custom table and chairs, you'd have to go to a custom furniture shop, kind of like this.
and it would cost you a whole lot of money, and you'd have to wait for months. Now there's a better way. Jordan's Design It Yourself collection. Choose the table you like, shape, size, and style. Choose the perfect legs. Add the right chairs or stools. Choose the finish, dark, light, distressed, any color, even stone. The options are really endless. Design it yourself and have it in your home in just weeks, only at Jordan's Furniture.
Anything? No. How about now? Nope.
Chevy Silverado.
Finally.
From getting there to getting away from there, Chevy runs deep.
I'm a fisherman, as my father was before me. You work hard, you make money. You work less, you make less. It's nice to know you're covered by Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Gives you mind sense that if anything happens, you don't have to sell the farm or something like that, you know? My name is Thomas P. Testaverde, and I'm from Gloucester.
Representatives 2 years ago will be in charge for 2 more years at least. The Democrats will maintain control of the Senate. Let's have a look at the presidential race board. This is how it all shook out tonight. There are 2 states that we still cannot project, Florida and Virginia. Those are too close to call, but they cannot make a difference mathematically in the outcome. President Obama has won re-election. President Obama has 290 electoral votes at this moment. Mitt Romney 203. It is 270 electoral votes that wins the presidency, so President Obama well past that at this point. So John Dickerson has been analyzing the race, and John, I wonder, among the people who decided late in this campaign, which way did they break, for Romney or Obama?
Well, about 9% of the electorate, according to the exit polls, made up their decision in the last few days. Now, there's an old rule of politics that's much debated about whether late deciders break for the incumbent or the challenger. The Romney people insisted they were going to be the beneficiaries of those late deciders. Well, President Obama won that group 51-44. So the question then is, was this about the president's performance in dealing with Hurricane Sandy? There was a lot of speculation about how that may have changed the race at the end. Governor Romney was making a pitch to undecided voters saying, I am a bipartisan guy who can get things done. What happened then was the storm came along. The president was able to show that he could be effective, and how in working with a Republican governor of New Jersey. We'll have to do a little more reporting, but for that 9%, that may have played a little bit of a role.
John, thank you. Nora, do you think Sandy was a helpful October surprise for the president?
It appears, based on some of the data, that it may have been. Once a number of Republicans hear that, they're going to be angry at New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who some conservatives felt helped the president. Other people said, look, these guys were both just doing their jobs for a lot of people who were really hurting, who had lost their homes, lost their electricity, and for the many people who died as a result of Hurricane Sandy. But Chris Christie was effusive in his praise of the president, and at one point even praising the president for calling him and putting Bruce Springsteen on the phone so that he could talk to Bruce Springsteen, as Bruce Springsteen and Governor Christie have had a tense relationship in the past, but apparently that has now mended with the help of the president.
They almost look like running mates in some of these pictures, and you remember Chris Christie giving the keynote address at the Republican National Convention, and now standing side by side with the president and praising the president, going out of his way.
But you know, Scott, this is what public officials are supposed to do. This is what people want them to do. They behaved as we would expect them to. I mean, Governor Christie, he was in trouble. He went and asked the federal government for help. The president said, I'm on the case. Well, he was gracious enough to say thank you. I mean, I think what this is an example of is that doing the right thing is generally pretty good politics. I mean, I hope some other elected officials take a lesson from this. I think this is what people want to see, whatever the impact it had on Governor Romney, and I remain to be convinced it had all that much of an impact. But I say hats off to both of them, for there were people in trouble out there where the heat was off. I mean, they were drowning, and these two fellows got together and got them out of it.
You know,
what's wrong with that?
You know, Bob, there's going to have to be a lot of soul searching, I would imagine, among members of the Republican Party as this new day dawns here on the East Coast, now that they've lost this election.
Yes, and I think one thing that may come out of this, if doing the right thing is good politics, I think it was especially good politics for Governor Christie, because the field is going to be wide open in 2016 as who's going to run for the Republican nomination. I would put Chris Christie right out there in front right now. I think Marco Rubio, I would guess, would also be a candidate. I think Jeb Bush will be a candidate. And I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Ryan is not a candidate next time out. But I think you're going to see a whole new slate here.
It's never too early to start talking about the next one.
Right? And you know that somebody's planning it as we speak. Jan Crawford is at Romney campaign headquarters, kind of a solemn mood there this evening. Jan?
Well, yes, it is very silent here, and of course we're still waiting on Governor Romney to give that concession speech. Many people had expected he would be here quite some time ago. There's been no indication there's been any movement for Governor Romney to this hall to address this crowd. Now, I want to go back to something we were talking about earlier. This campaign, again, thought it was going to win. It may be taking a while for this to sink in, that they actually did, according to our projections, lose this race. They believed they were going to carry it off tonight. They thought it would be close. An advisor, in fact, told me last night they had already put in place preparations for something tomorrow, because in case this went on so late tonight, and then the Romney campaign would be looking forward, they may be having some event tomorrow's speech to talk about possible recounts. They expected a challenge if this was close. So all of this campaign, the strain of this campaign, going back, the hard-fought primary that Romney endured, several tough challenges. He survived that and won Florida, of course, to go on and win the Republican nomination, and then that bruising battle that you all have been talking about, the ads, the strain of that, and then the realization that it's over, maybe just taking a while for it to sink in, Scott.
Well, if this follows the normal course of events, we would expect Governor Romney to be making a phone call directly to the president to congratulate him on his victory. Then we might expect to see Governor Romney make a concession speech there where Jan is in Boston. And then we would go to where Nancy Cordes is tonight in Chicago, where we would expect the president to make a victory speech in front of thousands of people there at the McCormick Center. Nancy?
And Scott, a White House official confirms to me that as of a few minutes ago, the president had not received a concession call from Governor Romney. Until that happens, it appears unlikely the president is going to get into his motorcade and head here to McCormick Place to declare victory. He is holed up at that hotel with his staffers, with Vice President Biden, who has been very busy over the past hour, making phone calls, reaching out to Democrats who have won re-election in the Senate or who are going to be heading to the Senate for the first time. Vice President Biden today was very interesting. He started out the day in his home state of Delaware, where he voted, and a reporter there asked him, Vice President, do you think this is the last time you'll ever vote for yourself? And the Vice President smiled and said, no, I don't think so. Of course, that got a lot of people thinking, does that mean he's going to run for the presidency himself in 4 years? But later on in the day, the Vice President joked that maybe he'll go back to Delaware and run for city council or something like that. He, the Vice President himself, made a last-minute stop in Ohio today after the Romney campaign announced that Governor Romney was going to be making a few campaign stops, and so was Paul Ryan. Vice President Biden dropped in, visited some voters in Cleveland. We saw a really unusual shot of the Vice President's plane, of Governor Romney's plane, and Paul Ryan's plane, all on the tarmac in Cleveland, Ohio, and then he headed here to Chicago, Scott.
Thank you very much, Nancy. You know, we want to get a little perspective from our CBS News election consultant, Frank Luntz, who's also a pollster for the Republican Party. And Frank, this would have been a layup under other circumstances. We've said it before tonight. No president with an unemployment rate this high has ever been reelected since FDR. And I wonder, what are Republicans thinking of where they are tonight?
Well, the strange thing is that as bad as this was for the presidential campaign, it's actually been a success among House races where Republicans are holding their own and might actually end up with a net gain of a seat or two, which nobody was expecting. In the end, Mitt Romney was able to prove that he was a problem solver, but he was unable to prove that he understood their problems. And what the Republicans need to pay attention to is what I call the empathy quotient, the ability to understand, appreciate, and communicate that they really get what the average American is thinking and feeling, and then they can prove that they can solve those problems.
You know, I wonder what demographics in the country, based on what we know at this point, did the Republicans fail to reach? Who do they need to reach now that they haven't reached tonight?
Well, that's easy. The first is Hispanics. You cannot win a national election when you are getting 20-something% of the Hispanic vote. And it's not a monolithic community. You've got to be able to reach out to Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Central Americans, and that's something that the Romney campaign was unable to do. Also, women aged 30 to 49, new moms, young mothers. You can't have a gender gap of, as Nora pointed out, 19% and expect to be elected to a national party. And finally, it's going to be crucial that they reach out to those who don't identify with any political party. In the end, you're going to get your base. The victory goes to those who bring in those in the center.
Frank Luntz, CBS News consultant and Republican Party pollster, thank you very much for being with us tonight. CBS News coverage of campaign 2012 election night will continue in just a moment.
I say the same thing twice, I'm awkward when I speak. Ain't got the perfect smile, don't turn heads on my street. Trying to be a superstar like everybody else. But being myself is something I do well. Express yourself. Express yourself.
Music is a universal language, but when I was in an accident, I was worried the healthcare system spoke a language all its own. With United Healthcare, I got help that fit my life, so I never missed a beat.
That's health in numbers. United Healthcare.
We have big dreams. One is for a clean domestic energy future that puts us in control. Our abundant natural gas is already saving us money, producing cleaner electricity, putting us to work here in America, and supporting wind and solar. Though all energy development comes with some risk, we're committed to safely and responsibly producing natural gas. It's not a dream. America's natural gas, putting us in control of our energy future now.
My sunshine, my only sunshine, you make me happy.
Choose the same brand your mom trusted for you. Children's Tylenol, the #1 brand of pain and fever relief recommended by pediatricians and used by moms decade after decade.
E-Trade was founded on the simple belief that bringing you better technology helps make you a better investor. With our revolutionary E-Trade 360 dashboard, you see exactly where your money is and what it's doing live. Our E-Trade Pro platform offers powerful functionality that's still so usable, you'll actually use it. And our mobile apps are the ultimate in wherever, whenever investing. No matter what kind of investor you are, you'll find the technology to help you become a better one at E-Trade.
Thursday, set phasers to fun. One big fight. I'm a callous egomaniac. She's gonna leave me.
No, she won't.
No, she won't. I'm great. Leads to another. Prepare yourself.
You really think we're gonna fight?
Will Wheaton guests on a new Big Bang Theory. My fists are not up here because I'm milking a giant invisible cow.
Then Miley Cyrus is back.
You want to go to your bedroom and unpack?
That's okay. I don't really have much. She's not really talking about unpacking.
A new 2.5 Men right after a new Big Bang Theory. CBS Thursday.
Back now with election night on CBS. Let's have a look at the presidential race map as it stands right now. CBS News projected some time ago that the president would carry the state of Ohio, and with that, that put President Obama over the 270 electoral votes necessary to win the presidency. The president now has 290 electoral votes to Mitt Romney's 203. States of Florida and Virginia still have not been projected. The vote there is so very close. We have not been able to make a projection. But if Mitt Romney won Virginia and Florida, it would not make the difference tonight. President Obama has won re-election. But let us show you The tabulated vote in the state of Ohio, as it exists right now, 81% of the vote in. Look at that, 49% to 49%. There is less than 30,000 votes between the two of them, with another 19% of the vote yet to count. But based on our exit polling that we have done all over Ohio all day long, talking to voters, CBS News has projected that the president is the winner in Ohio. And I want to go to our political director, John Dickerson. And John, explain to me, with the vote as close as it is in Ohio, why has CBS News projected that Ohio goes to the president?
Well, because they've decided that in looking at the very places where the president needs to do well, he's done well, that in the places Mitt Romney needed to do extra well, he has not done as well as he needed to. And then in the swing areas, the president has won the day. And so in Hamilton County, for example, the president is doing well. In Lake County, which used to be a bellwether, it has gone for Governor Romney. So in this case, it loses its status. But the president, one of the things that was striking in looking at the exit polls is I went on a bus tour with the president through Ohio. And in that bus tour, he would talk to the audience and basically say, I'm one of you. I'm fighting for you because I'm one of you. He talked about staying with his mother in the Howard Johnsons and playing with the ice maker when he was a little kid on the vacations they took, and how that's what people, all they wanted was just to take a vacation. That was the personal appeal that was connected to the auto bailout, which is, I care about you, I fought for you, and that's why in the exit polls, when you ask voters of Ohio which candidate cares about you, the president won 84 to 15.
But we have projected the president the winner in Ohio because of what we know about the individual counties and the historical voting trends in those counties and what we know of the tabulated vote in those counties.
That's exactly right. It's both what we know about what is happening and what has happened and what's possible in the universe. We know the universe of the possible outcomes, and there is not a possible outcome in which Governor Romney can win.
John, thank you very much. Anthony Mason has been looking at the exit polling data from all 50 states. And Anthony, how did the president put it together tonight?
Well, the first way you can look at this, Scott, is if you look at the battleground board that we followed all night long, and as you know, we began with 9 states. These are the results we have in, and it's mostly blue. The president has won 6 of those states. There are 2 toss-ups still, Virginia and Florida. Mitt Romney has won only North Carolina. But the real key here, and we talked about this before, but I've got to go back to it, was the economy. This was the #1 issue. 60% of the people put it at the top of the list. But President Obama, who was supposed to be running against an 8% unemployment rate, has effectively neutralized that issue. He won 48% on the issue of who'd do a better job on the economy, lost by 1 point. Medicare, a big issue, and the president won that substantially. Asked who'd do a better job, 52% said President Obama, 44% said Governor Romney. And finally, who would you trust to handle an international crisis? The president won this overwhelmingly, 57 to 49%. But if you go back to the economy, Scott, I think a couple of things are important here. As the election approached, you saw the stock market getting better, you saw the job market getting a little bit better, you saw the housing market getting better. And another interesting point, when voters were asked who Mitt Romney's policies favored, 55% said they favor the wealthy.
Anthony, thank you. Bob Schieffer, what do you have there?
Well, one reason we may not be hearing from Governor Romney, he told a television station in Denver today that President Obama said that he had prepared both a victory speech and a concession speech. He said you always have to have 2 speeches prepared because you can't take anything for granted. On the other hand, Governor Romney, who was spending the